in my opinion, I think he's very close to being one of the, like, he's going to be at the top of a leaderboard in a major for the next 5 to 10 years. I really think that he's that great with pretty much throughout the bag. I think he's looking for that one little last piece, and that's something that doesn't exist at this point. So I'm not going to I know you want me to say what I think he should be playing, but I really don't think there is that thing.
Okay, welcome to episode 286 of Fully Equipped. We have a banging show today. We have, as a co-host on the show, along with myself and Kris McCormack, we have Mr. Kellen Watson from the Callaway Tour Performance Trailer, PGA Tour rep of the Stars, Xander Schauffele, Jon Rahm, Minwoo Lee, and many others. Kellen, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I am great. Very early morning this morning, but after some crazy storms yesterday, we're in the clear today. Beautiful day, sun's out. Probably hit about 75, so it's going to be a beautiful day here.
Okay.
Nice.
And Kris, you are in Arizona, in your silo over there. What's going on over there in Arizona?
Yes, sir. It's temperature hasn't gotten to the point of me questioning my life choices as to why I live here yet, but it is well on the way, and just rocking and rolling here in the golf bat cave, and hanging out with you guys and talking all things gear and all things Callaway, newest, latest, and greatest, tour trends, all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. So I'm over here in Toronto. It's about 55 degrees. I'm siloed in the basement bedroom because I've been sick. So I'm down here in the hole, and that's what we're doing here today. Okay, we have a lot to cover, boys. But before we get started, if you are looking for some Fully Equipped merch, branded stuff from the show, go to shop.golf.com. I know, Kris, you are a user. You have it on right now. So if you want to look stylish like Kris McCormack, then go to shop.golf.com for all the Fully Equipped swag. Kellen, at some point, will probably get you some sort of a mug or something with a Fully Equipped logo, because I know how much you like your coffee. Not a shirt, Kel, not a hat, but probably some sort of a mug, something in a porcelain. Okay, we have a lot to cover. Let's get to the real stuff here.
I don't know if anybody's ever used Kris McCormack and stylish in the same sentence.
That just happened, Kris.
Well, we just did, and we just laid down the gauntlet, Kris, and so now the pressure is on for you to raise your levels to the shopgolf.com platform. Okay, PGA Championship, Kellen, we're going to start with you. Takes, give me your takes. So you watched the tournament, you saw Scotty win, you saw Rahmbo do what Rahmbo does. Like, okay, give me your overall thoughts of kind of what happened there on Sunday.
Not an easy place to play. And it was a different kind of, I think the maturation of the course throughout the week was a little bit tricky to kind of conquer, I would say. Early in the week, a lot of mud balls, a lot of, wet grounds, everything around. Greens were still, due to the sub-air system, were still kind of, firm to a point. But I think the conditions going from, Thursday, Friday to Saturday, and then ultimately Sunday, I think that was a huge change. Scotty's going to be there all the time. There's not much you can say about, his the ultimate control of his golf ball with his irons and wedges. Just distance control is just outrageous. And then, his short game is, top notch as well. So you're never going to count him out of anything. Obviously had some troubles with the driver on the front nine, but rectified that on the back. And then Jon, in true Jon fashion, would not give up. Kind of speaks to the competitor that he is. I think ultimately, I think he got maybe one of the worst breaks on 14 when he hit, that 5-wood, little draw
Right.
5-wood, and it hit in kind of that front right bowl of the green. And instead of it bouncing, dead straight down, he kind of had that awkward bunker shot. And then, just a tough read from that side going towards the water. So, I mean, I think the most impressive thing was probably, JT Poston and Davis Riley kind of, played very well coming in.
Right.
And played together. And I think they fed off each other, nothing, taking nothing away from them. It's not those usually aren't two names that, you hear when it comes to major championship golf, but we saw Davis in the trailer on Monday. He came in with Stephen Sweeney to use the Quintic and kind of get realigned on his putting stroke and what he was doing. So I think that helped a lot. And then JT, obviously a North Carolina kid, I think he was very familiar with the course. But overall, Quail Hollow kind of delivered again. I think it would have been a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. It's a speculation at this point, but I think it would have been a little bit more exciting had the weather stayed away. I think to see it kind of, the first cut, second cut being a little bit deeper, and then, the fairways and the greens playing, equally as quick. I think it would have been a different tournament, but, hats off to Scotty on, yet another brilliant performance.
There's two different psychologies that kind of take place, with a player like Rahm and then JT Poston and Davis Riley. So the last three holes, like you can't really use JR's final score as like a metric for how he played, because Kellen, you could attest to this. The last three holes he's pressing, like you could tell the ball speeds went up, that 7 or 6 iron he hit into the par 3, he's trying to hit a rope hook in there to get it close. Like those aren't normal shots unless JR is literally still trying to win. So, I think he ended up at -4 or whatever, finishing T8 or whatever. But, essentially the last three holes I kind of put as a misnomer, just because that's a guy literally just trying to go ham on the last three holes to see if he can make something happen. I mean, the guy, the mentality is, with him is he's trying to hole out from the fairways. He's trying to make a hole in one. He's trying to make an eagle or an albatross. Like that's kind of where his head goes, where Davis Riley and JT Poston are still at that point in their career where they're trying to make sure they get into the top 5, top 2. They're getting a check. So that's the difference between somebody like Rahm, where he's at in his career, and then some of these younger guys. I mean, ultimately, it does come down to finances. It comes down to world rankings and position, and all that stuff. Or Rombo throws that stuff out the window. I mean, Kelly, this as good as anybody. I mean, those shots that he hit on those last three holes, the par 5 and then the par 3, like. He's not doing that unless he's trying to hole out 5 times in a row. Like he's trying to go full send. So I saw a couple of comments from people saying that he kind of puked on the last three holes. I'm like, no, he didn't. I mean, his tournament was kind of started pressing after you brought it up on that par 5 where he didn't make birdie. That's when he goes into like desperation mode. I still got to try and do something bananas here to make it worth his while. So interesting psychology study between players.
Yeah, if you want to lift the trophy at the end of the day, I think you need to. Be aggressive. I mean, the putt from the kind of the bottom or the back right of 15, he was just a little bit too aggressive with, and then you're going to press on 16, just didn't cut that driver, and kind of that putt. Still don't know how it stayed out. It kind of went right across the face, and then. Yeah, I mean the shot on 17. I mean, you got to be aggressive. You got to be aggressive. Maybe it was a too aggressive line, but I mean you can't do anything about it. I mean, you just need, if you want a trophy, you need to stay aggressive.
I'll give you a quick insight into how this guy thinks, and so we are at the Amex, and Kellen, you'll remember this, but we're at the Amex, and this is Caleb Surratt's first time on tour. I think he got I think he was still in high school. This is 2 years ago, and he's out playing a practice round with Rombo, and they get to, you could tell Caleb was nervous, and it's Jon Rahm, and he's playing under the lights with, on a practice round, and all eyes are on Rahmbo at that point, and because he had just gone scorched earth in Hawaii. And so they're playing and they're sitting in the middle of the fairway. I think this is maybe 2022. I don't remember. Anyway, they're sitting in the middle of the fairway, and finally Caleb gets the nerves to ask Rahm a golf question. Besides the pleasantries, it was like, okay, we're in the middle of the fairway. We're both kind of in the same spot. So he goes to Rahmbo, and he walks up to me. He's like, and Rahmbo had like a 128-yard shot or something like that, something trivial with a, middle pin. It was a practice round. And he goes, he's like, hey, so I'm just curious, like, you're a shot like this, like, what are you trying to do here? And Rahmbo kind of looked at him and kind of looked at Hayes, and literally in sync, Hazy and Rahmbo was like, we're trying to hole it out from here. and Caleb's eyes got this big, and Hazy kind of looked at the kid, like, this is the PGA Tour, man. Like, from 130 in, we're trying to hole it out. Like, there's no strategy. Like, we're at the Amex, we're in Palm Springs, perfect conditions. Like, Rambo's trying to figure out what side of the hole he's trying to hole it out on. And Caleb was, at that point, you could tell Caleb was like, oh God, I'm not in high school anymore. Like, this is a whole nother ball game. And that just kind of speaks to where these guys' heads go. That's how good they are. I mean, it's like they're, they hole it out all the time. No, but is there intention to get it that close at that point? Yes, it is. And that's the level of aggressiveness that these guys play in, like, every day. So it's not, they're not, their foot's not off the brake, their foot's not off the pedal very often. Maybe in a major, but not in normal circumstances. It's not. So
Johnny makes a good point with just the mentality of where the players are in their levels of career, and the fact that we saw what happened down the stretch, the last 3 holes, and understanding Rahm's mentality of on the gas, fire at everything, make something happen, where the other players in the field may have a little bit different mentality as far as, like Johnny said, just trying to secure their position on the leaderboard. And I mean, that's kind of an interesting mindset, knowing that Rahm is extremely aggressive, very fiery on the course, and doesn't typically hold a lot back. That makes a good point as to he's taking, what most would consider unnecessary risks, trying to force a situation, trying to force something to happen, and looking for that hero shot, that highlight reel. Is, man, the results of some of the shots that he hit that last stretch, if they would have gone the other direction, we would be having a completely different conversation today. That's for sure.
I think you could take it to pretty much any sport at that point and say, whether it be the NBA playoffs, if you really need to press, you're going to shoot, you're not going to score.
For sure.
It's the same thing as you're not going to hit a home run unless you're swinging, so you're being aggressive as possible. Obviously a little bit different because, it's a team sport, but the only thing you kind of compare it to is, somebody pressing during a match in tennis, whether it be one of the 4 majors in tennis. You're going to press. You're going to try to, you're going to take chances when you're on serve, and then you're going to take some chances when you're off serve. So it's, everybody has that mentality. It's just, do you really want to be that aggressive? And he's going to be. So as a major champion himself, yeah. But I think it sets him up for, the next 2 to be, very good thoughts, very good mindset. And the next 2 are Oakmont and Port Rush are, no cakewalk. So we'll see what happens.
No, for sure. And the fact that he's playing good, when he's playing good, I think it's good for golf. And he is an electric player. I definitely miss watching him on the PGA Tour, that's for sure. And if he is anywhere in contention, I know I am dialed watching that guy play. He's fun to watch. I know I was talking to a couple of my buddies and telling them that you were coming on the show today, and they had requests. There were a few guys in a group chat that I'm in that wanted to know specifically about the sous chef cover.
Oh, the sous chef cover. Well, it's just kind of playing off what he's done, what Minwoo's done with kind of this he's taken it and ran with it, and I believe it's awesome.
As he should. It's like a brand within his brand, and I love it.
And now he's got it on his golf ball, and why not? I mean, it's amazing. So me knowing, I love to cook too.
Sure.
Not in the sense of on the golf course during tournaments, because I'm not that good, or I'm not that great. Let's put it that way. But we're avid watchers of Top Chef, and we try to cook as much as possible at home, with 3 kids, it's a little bit difficult. So I like to make a mean plate of chicken nuggets if need be.
There you go.
But I knew sous chef. I mean, the next one might be, line cook. It could go down the line. It could get to the point where, he might have a putter that's, silky smooth, and it could be, the sommelier. So we'll try to fill up the whole, not
just the hierarchy of the slew there.
I don't know if we're going to get to the front of the house. We might just stay in the kitchen when it comes to naming some of these things. But I don't. And he's a bit younger, so I'm not sure he really recognized what sous chef was. I think he might have had to been like, let me look that up and see what that means. But I think that was. It's just. I like to have a little fun with some of the stuff that, goes out to our players. I'll do stuff for like Siwoo and KH Lee. I'll put, I love all those languages, and I love how they, their characters, when they're, the writing and the penmanship of what they do in the Asian culture. So I'll throw some stuff on some head covers that I'm giving out to some of those guys, and they'll be like, oh, very good. Very good. So,
it's definitely getting noticed. I mean, all of the gear nerds and gear junkies and people that look for some of the little subtle nuances and Easter eggs and things like that. We love that stuff. I mean, present company included, love it.
I did it for what's his face? Johnny built him a mini drive.
Jake Morrow.
There you go. So I did it for him too. I mean, it's something fun. I mean, it's a pretty serious game for those guys, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have fun with it. And that's pretty much my mindset all the time. It's just, we're going to continue to do this. You might want to keep it lighthearted. So it's a fun thing that I don't know why I started doing it, but it's better than putting a piece of tape on it and being like, this one goes to his locker. So it is what it is.
That was going to be the follow-up question was, who did it start with, if you remember, and what was it?
Oh, man.
Going way back?
Could be. And I really, that's, man.
You did it on my mini driver.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from you, but I don't think you were the first one. I think this goes.
Johnny,
no, I don't think I was either. I'm just saying that was one that was done.
Yeah, no, I've put crazier things on everybody. Like if it's a fairway wood that is just going to sit there and it needs to go to somebody's locker, or it's one of those things that just I would rather them do. I would rather permanently put it on there. Also, sometimes if it's a backup driver, just throwing like backup on it. So that's kind of where the sous chef thing came from. It's just kind of playing into the humor that he has. It's a pick and choose kind of situation too, because some guys they don't get the humor. So it's, I couldn't tell you. It's been a long time with Callaway, so I couldn't tell you which person had the inaugural.
Say who's got the OG?
No idea. No idea.
Man, that would be an interesting little nugget to try and backtrack and find out when and where, who's got it.
That's the fact that I've done it so many. Maybe it's because I've done it so many times I couldn't tell you the first time. So that's
fair.
Yeah.
Sorry, Johnny, you weren't the first. He was thinking of you the whole time.
No, I didn't think I was, but let's talk quickly So the hot topic is driver testing this week. So you and I, Kel, have talked quite a bit about this. So just for the record, for the people at Fully Equipped, explain, one, the fact that it happens a lot, but two, just explain the process of driver testing. Like, how does it all go down?
Well, I mean, this is going to be an interesting topic, and everybody kind of, it's tough. And I think Johnson Wagner had said it best when he had kind of thrown something out there that it happens more often than the general public would know. And I can tell. I mean, sometimes
Right.
you'll see one of the guys from the USGA or who does the testing on a regular basis. You'll see him at your hotel on like a Sunday night, and you're like, okay, here we go. So we know that, this week we're testing drivers. So I think their ultimate goal is to test, I think almost everybody on tour's driver at least 3 times during the year. I believe that is their ultimate goal. I think to a point, there are some guys that are tested more than 3 times during the course of the year. I can't speak to that, and kind of just taking them at their word that it's been more than 3 times. And then also what you have when you go across the pond too is you will have the RNA test it. They'll send a list of players prior to the week to us. So we will almost be in charge of bringing their driver over to them at the Open Championship and them testing it, then us taking it back to the player, whether it, if it passed, and then, everything's fine. So the USGA and the RNA have a little bit different way of their testing processes. But there is, first thing Monday morning, if you're on the range and you see somebody walking around, and one of the rules officials that helps out with this situation, if they, they're going up to players early, and testing drivers, it's ultimately going to happen to somebody on your staff. And essentially it's supposed to be random what
Right.
they are doing. But as this is not hearsay, this is kind of factual that if you're the first one out there on a Monday, there's a really good chance that whether it's happened in the last 2 months, your driver's probably going to get taken and tested. Now the testing process is quite intricate to a point of, and I don't want to be the one to throw blame at the USGA, but there's a point where the level of play for these guys on the PGA Tour, or those that play on the DP World Tour and come over to the PGA Tour, the spots on the face that they are testing, some of them have never seen those spots with a golf ball, unless possibly their child has hit it one time. So I'm in agreement to a point where if it's illegal, it's illegal. But if it's illegal in a spot that's not even accessible by a tour pro, I just don't agree with it. I just don't get it. I get it. I don't get it. It's kind of that kind of double-edged sword, kind of silver lining. So it's essentially it's a totally random situation on any given week. You can almost pinpoint the weeks that it's going to happen. Obviously, you're not going to get any driver testing on a week where no trucks are involved. So take like a Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Truckee, all the kind of the concurrent events with some of the bigger events. You're also going to get it early in the year in a signature event. So it could be a Riviera or Genesis, and then possibly again at API and at Bay Hill. But you're going to have a couple kind of in between there. It's I would love to go on, but I think that my attitude on the whole thing will flip to more negative than it is positive.
That's fair.
It's just an interesting process that I don't believe it needs to take place as many times as it does, and I believe there should be some kind of memo sent out to essentially our players or our teams as OEMs to, let us know that these are the people that we are going to be testing this week. I think the randomized part of it, I think it's discouraging to some because I feel like, yes, they do get tested a little bit more often than others.
That has to be
one of the comments that's got. Go ahead, Kris.
I was just going to say it has to be extremely frustrating for a player. And I mean, kind of like you're saying, Kellen, you have somebody that kind of trends towards like a high toe impact position, and somebody, oh yeah, I play X ball flight and I hit it within 2 to 3 millimeters of this impact zone pretty much every time. And my driver failed out of the low heel or the high heel or someplace that I'm just never making contact with a golf ball. And that would get under my skin as a player. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And Johnny, sorry to cut you off. I was going to ask the question, like, how is it generally received if your driver becomes non-conforming right before the round one of a major championship?
Well, so yeah, that's the other thing too, and I talked about this with Johnny before. Is that they'll never do anything on a Wednesday. They'll always do it on Monday and Tuesday, and that's, I had said to Johnny that it's a little bit unfair to the point where, the facilities were closed Monday and Tuesday at points where you couldn't essentially work on it, on the range. Obviously, on the range, you get the numbers, you get to see the ball flight, but I mean, that's 20% of the driver. Yeah. I mean, the driving range is 20% of how you're going to hit shots. It might be even less. I'm just throwing that out there. But I mean, unless you have data from on-course testing, then you have no idea because your speed's going to go up on the course. It's just going to be the best way to test a driver or any club is in competition, whether it be a practice round or, during a tournament. So it's tough. And there's some responsibility that lies on us and lies on the player to have, a qualified backup too. A backup, like I told him before, is just, it's not a head just lying in your bag waiting to be put on that shaft just in case something happens during the round. This is kind of I feel better with this head. This other head that I do have is amazing, but I feel better with this head. So, I feel better with this head is obviously that's the gamer. And then the one you feel really good about, but there's something that you just don't love right now. That is your backup. And then it's cyclical from there. So, if the first one, fails, then the backup's in. Now you're getting another backup. The kind of onus is passed to us and the player to, have completely be ready in situations that might happen like this. So,
gotcha.
So Kellen, the Scotty Scheffler and Xander said this too. Like they should do testing every week, for example, like every player every week. Which to my thing is like, what's to keep players from not just sticking their gamer in their locker every week when the testing goes on and just bringing it back out? I mean, there's too much testing it every week leaves too much room for, fuckery, essentially, for lack of a better term. It's like, you can't test them every week. Is a better solution. And I thought about this. I did this on the Rocco show. the other day, is basically putting some of the onus on the OEMs to kind of ensure, every couple of weeks to test everybody's driver, in-house, just to make sure. And if a driver's at, say, for example, yellow, or, the numbers, pretty close to the red, to start making adjustments there, with the warning, like, hey, this driver, and turning in the report to the USGA, like, okay, this is the report from this week of the drivers. And they're like, okay, well, these two guys are pretty close to the red, so we're assuming you're going to make some adjustments to get that out of play sooner than later. Because then it puts the onus kind of on the player. Like, you knew it was red, you still played with it, you took the chance, you got it pulled. This is what happens, right? Is there a world where that happens, or is that a logistical nightmare?
It would be kind of a logistical nightmare, just because of, just the testing processes. If you're testing it on your say you have, like we have one in the truck, do we test it? If we were testing it every week, are we testing the same that USGA would test it? So if we come back with a number that is
right,
essentially what they would describe as in the yellow, that's a driver that player is going to want to take. I mean, then it's going to mean that it's a little bit faster, right, and we get a little bit more yardage out of it. But is our test going to is it going to correlate to what the USGA their test says? That's the kind of that's the risk that you run by doing that every week. And then, yes, essentially at the end of the day, it is a logistical nightmare, because you're taking time out of player A's day to test it. And then if like I said, I mean, if the results come back good on our side, but they don't come back good on the USGA side, then now you're in a kerfuffle of it's a tough kind of sequence to mitigate to a point. It is what it is.
Right.
Kind of have to deal with it. I just wish it was more structured to a point. And I think in the world that they live in kind of a structured world. I think they should structure this a little bit more according to what the player could do. It's just not. It's not
right.
The randomness of it is a little bit much.
And I think that's what's getting most people, is the randomness of it, like the unpredictability. Like Rory got put in a tough spot this week because of the fact that it rained, and he couldn't test. And all you guys, yourself, Adrian Riedfeld, Kenton, everybody on the trucks always has an able backup right there. But you said it, you hit the nail on the head, because some of the questions that were being asked is, why can't they just put I thought the backup was supposed to match the gamer. And it's like, it's not that simple. And you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it's a backup for a reason. So, you're asking the player to get used to something. And at a tour level, everything's in the nuance, right? It's not just as simple as ball speed and whatever on the range and start line. It's comfortability. Are you comfortable with this thing on a dog leg left? Are you comfortable? Can you hook it, at this starting line? And there's all these little things that players have to get used to. And I think where Rory kind of got screwed was the fact that he was left to basically get used to a driver fast, without really any lead-in time. And Scotty was able to do the same thing because his driver got pulled as well. So I don't know exactly, if that's on the player to adapt quicker, or if that's just a more able backup. I have no idea, but that's where it gets tricky. And I can attest to this because I've been with you for hours and hours and hours on the range. I know the level of expertise and level of detail that goes into a backup driver is just the same as it is to the gamer. There's no A driver and B driver. When you hand a guy, like usually with Rombo at the beginning of a season, it's, you usually hand him, you pull out 4 to test, and you pull out, 2 of the 4 are the ones that he's going to take home with him. Both of those heads are dialed to an inch of their life. But the one that goes in play versus the one that goes in the backup or in the locker, and they're not the same driver. Like they're not the same. Like you're still asking the player to get used to it.
Yeah.
So really quickly, and I've been asked this a few times, just really quick to stay on Rombo for a second. Last year, I guess, when was that, Kel? the end of 23 when he switched shafts. That was at the end of 23, the year. When was that? Yeah, it was like a year and a half.
No.
Where he finally got out of the tour green.
No, that was
yeah, what was that?
Yeah,
that
was
last
like
year.
September of last year, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think it had been
I don't remember.
that long.
I remember it was okay. So explain how that switch went down really quick, just to put that topic to bed as well, because that was obviously a big switch, and that was one that you had your hands all over. So explain that one to us real quick.
Oh man. We always okay. There was a level of here we go.
Kellen, just watching your facial expressions as you start to unpack this.
I know. There was a level of comfortability with obviously the tour green, and then there was many factors that he had to kind of address when it came to whether he was losing ball speed with A or he was gaining ball speed with B, and I think it always came back down to it that me and Dave Phillips always thought, like, this is a strong guy. There needs to be some kind of improvement in the shaft world, whether it be the pre-preg material that people are using or the kick points, the torque, you name it. And we'd always been in agreement on, we need to try something different. There needs to be something that could take him from, a great driver of the golf ball to an elite driver of the golf ball. And I'm not trying to make that correlation with him, but I'm saying he's probably an elite driver of the golf ball. It's just, to a point, there was a familiarity with that shaft. He'd played that since, whenever. So it's kind of trying to get him. Yeah, it's trying to get him into the mindset of
before
listen,
college.
This is, we have some history with this. It's great, but is there something better? And it's a tough conversation with him because, believe it or not, he's a little bit stubborn about some things. So I kind of put together an array of a matrix of shafts that I thought would be, a good idea to test. And, the biggest thing was having kind of Dave on my side on some of this stuff. So, we, in true John fashion, we started with one. I kind of knew, in the array of the shafts, I knew which ones he would kind of fall not in love with, but he would like to a point. And so I didn't start with those. I just wanted to get information out of the other ones as well. There was a couple new ones. I'm not going to name any names of what we tested because I don't want anybody to get mad at me for not being included in that array. But
sure, keep it political.
Yes, and so Dave has a kind of a high. It's some kind of phone that he's gotten from somewhere in Southeast Asia where the slow motion is. It's
a Chinese phone.
It's incredible too. I don't know. I don't know what it's called. I'm not going to offer a guess at all. But it is one of the greatest slow motion videos on a phone camera I've ever seen. And so, on the kind of the front facing shot with his shaft during that testing, you could see kind of a deflection towards the ball from the shaft. And then as soon as we got back down to the current gamer that he has right now, you could see that his left arm, shaft, ball, all matched up perfectly. And you knew at that, and it happened with a couple of the other shafts, but where I started with, he'd hit one shot and he'd literally just throw the club back at me, which is not the first time I've gotten a club thrown, but it was like, this one's terrible. And it's like, okay. And,
normal.
For some other people, it'd be like, well, I'll hit another shot. I'm like, no, we're going to change shafts right away. He knows right away. And that's, I've learned that and I'm fine with it. And I think it's great because, it's either great or it sucks. And he doesn't live in a gray area, and I hate living in a gray area. So when we got down to that point and we're looking at these videos and you can see the deflection on what that tour green was, and at that point he was kind of struggling with his driver. So I mean, it was almost a kind of a serendipitous, point in that year that it all just came together, that we had an opportunity to make him, whether it be 10%. I was just looking for 1% better with the driver, and it was like that eureka moment. We got it. Now we have something that's great. Obviously, that test, when we finished it up, that also came with, I built another shaft to make sure that shaft matched the first shaft. We hit that, and then we hit the backup head and the gamer head with both shafts to make sure all of that was to his liking. And it was, I wouldn't say it was a quick test, but I think we went through I think we got to the fifth shaft, which I think there was 6 shafts. I knew number 5 was going to work, but I wanted to get more info on the first 4 for myself, and that's selfish of me, but whatever. Knowledge is power. So
I love that you just said that, Kellen.
Well, I mean, it's easier for me. I have 1.5 million golf shafts in my garage right now that I've hit, but I mean, I'm putting up maybe 172 ball speed, and I my hit array, depending on the day and my body, could be all over the face. So, but I mean, if I'm learning something from it and I'm learning from what he does, it works out much better for me when it goes to the next person down the line. But I mean, it was probably 10 minutes till we got to the shaft he's playing right now, because it only took one shot with those other 4. Now there was one in the first 4 that was a company. It was from the company that he plays in his fairway woods, that he was like, this one feels really good, and then it was kind of a stop there. And so he's settled on what he's settled on now. And funny story about it, he turned to me and Dave and he was like, listen, guys, if there's anything else that you think I should try, just please speak up. I go, dude, we've been saying this for 4 years now, and you haven't listened one time. So, and I love the kid to death, because he will blame himself before he blames the equipment. But there was a point where we needed to address that and see what we could do better.
Oddly enough, if you're going to take his Ventus Black, you're going to take the DI that he's got in his 3 and 5 wood, which obviously the DI 3 wood switching out of the green was the first step of him getting away from that security blanket back, earlier in the year. But they're two totally different feels. I mean, one's, soft in the handle and stiff in the tip. And then, obviously Ventus Black is really stiff in the handle and really stiff in the tip. So do you advocate for, obviously it's player specific, but those are different feels, right? Considerably different feels. What about, for example, DI? Is that still a security blanket for him since he's played it in the 5 wood for so long? How does that work in your mind? Why do those 2 shafts in his fairways work, versus just putting Ventus Black in all of them?
Yeah, I think there hasn't been any alarms that have gone off with the 3 wood or the 5 wood that would say, hey, we need to address these quickly, and possibly with something that is close to what he's playing in the driver. But at the same time, the driver swing and the fairway wood swings are 2 completely different things. So, the DI, essentially the DI, very soft, very much softer handle than the Ventus Black. And the tip section in the DI is, it's stiff. You can make it stiff. You can make it a little bit stiffer, but I think it's reactive to the point where he loves it. I think the biggest change when it came from the tour green to the Ventus was, I think was more the midsection of those two shafts and the deflection that came with the differences in those midsections. So I feel like there wasn't much kick to the midsection of the Ventus Black, and that's where we saw in that slow motion video where everything was kind of matched up at impact. Whereas the Tour Green was there was little deflection towards the ball, and I think that might have been what he was struggling with, because that could, in sense, it could be closing the face, it could be opening the face, there's a lot of different factors that go into that, and at a split second of time, at anywhere between 120 to 124 miles an hour. So the stability of what that offers in that swing essentially made it easier for him to switch that, but not seeing any advantages on what would be a 3-wood or a 5-wood swing, where the angle of attack would be a little bit further down on the ball. I don't think it has been that alarm sounded to say, hey, and it would be the same thing as if I were to give him, the DI and a 7X in the driver. Would it play the same? And I really don't think it would. I think it would be a completely different feel to him, and I think it would feel, sort of similar to what the green was. So it's kind of taking the variables and even talking to, some of the representatives of the shaft companies. It's like, I don't think, like, how I think is completely ridiculous, and I don't think anybody understands it. But I never wanted, like, if I asked for their opinion on what he would test, I don't want them to give me something that would play like the Tour Green. I think we wanted to get away from what that was. I don't think we wanted to match the whole shaft itself. So it was more thinking outside of the box. What is going to be, better in his interest than would it be to match what we've decided is not great anymore? So it's a very, very interesting situation with him. And I think that a lot of people can learn from that.
Well, so I get this question. Really quickly. I get this question a lot because people will say, like, is there benefit to matching all the shafts, right? Driver, 3-wood, 5-wood. And if you take somebody like Sergio Garcia, who does it, he's done it for years. Sergio Garcia's angle of attack with driver, 3-wood, and 5-wood are pretty much, they're all down. He's either 0, -1, kind of the same. Rambo goes from like 4 or 5 up with the driver to 2 or 3 down with a 3-wood and a 5-wood, right? Like it's 8 degrees of difference. So you can't really match him up that way because the swings are completely different. Like, he legitimately has a driver swing. I mean, he tees it up this high off the ground, right? So, do you think that that's a pretty decent marker for people that are asking, like, should I match all my shafts? If you, like Xander, same thing. Xander is very similar to Sergio. Like, his angle of attack, gets steeper with the fairway woods, but ultimately, like, it's kind of the same path. I mean, it's everything's kind of down or zeroed out. Is that a fair thing to say? Like, that's more what you're wanting to pay attention to if your angle of attack.
I don't know if it's more of just that, or just it needs to be. I mean, it's tough. I'll take Sergio out of the conversation just because everything he plays is back weighted, and that's manually, not in terms of shaft wise. So if we took him out of the equation, I really do think there is. I mean, it's one of those things that, and I've said this to you before, I've wrote it in that article that I wrote for you, is like, if you're treating every club in the bag like it's its own essential bag, right? You're going to find out as much information about the driver as you can. If it's, this shaft works the best, this gets me the best ball speed, this gives me the best launch conditions, the best spin rates, this follows my downrange pattern that I like to see. This one works on me in the 4th hole of my course where I can draw it easily. That's your driver. Now, if that shaft is the same thing in your 3-wood because it works exactly the same, God bless you, but I don't really think that, like, if you're going to go through a proper fitting with all of these clubs, I think all of these clubs need to be pinpointed to a point where they work for you for the distance that you need, for the shot shape that you need, for the launch conditions that you need. So I get it. Some people they fall in love with the driver shaft because it feels this way. Will it work in the 3-wood? I don't know. You got to try it. Will it work in the 5-wood?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Right.
Will
Totally different animal, totally different dynamics, totally
Yeah.
different swing. Yeah. I used to get that question a ton, and I mean
I get it a lot.
Like you said, it's a coin flip.
Yeah, it goes back to I need a 7X in my 3-wood because I have the 6X in my driver. I was like, why? Why do you?
Do you?
And this is what I told you the other day too. Is like when you go, like if you go in for a fitting for and the guy comes in and you're the fitter and the guy goes, well, I need to get a new 3-wood. And I mean, the first question that fitter should ask is why? Why do you want a 3-wood? Well, I mean, everybody else has a 3-wood. Like, okay, cool. I mean, you might need a 5-wood. You might need a 7-wood. You might not even need anything between a driver and your 4-iron. You don't even know. I mean, if you treat it that way, I think the consumer can be that much better. And I mean, I relate it to all the guys that I play with at home, and we play the same 2 courses all the time. I mean, we have 2 courses here, which is nice. It's great. But I mean, build your bag around those 2 courses. That's it. I mean, you might not even need a 3-wood. You could be, you go driver, 5-wood, 5-iron, who knows? So it's like, does it work? There's the driver shaft and the 3-wood shaft being the same. I don't know. I have no idea.
It can.
I mean, if you want to, it can. It might. I mean, you could also, like you said, I mean, you go flip a quarter in your kitchen and let it just, I mean, if it comes up and it's sitting dead on the side, I mean, that's probably the best answer right there. It's not heads or tails. It's something completely different. That's the answer that I would give.
All right. We're going to go down one last little rabbit hole here, and then we're going to wrap this up. But Kellen, this is a conversation that you or I are actively in, so I'm not going to give all the details, but Bryson and his golf ball. So I'm gonna say this. This is my hot take, and you and I know Bryson pretty well. So it's a getting involved in conversations with Bryson is for gear people. It's exciting, but it's at the same time it's a thing. I'm of the opinion, this is just me, that he needs because what he's describing in his press conferences is I need a ball that doesn't curve as much, and I need a ball that launches low. So I'm of the opinion that he needs like a chrome soft that goes low, essentially. Like that's kind of the plot. Like he's looking more consumer based golf balls that are forgiving left to right, right to left, because he's going to spin every golf ball out there a ton. Where, without giving too much intel, but like, where do you sit on like what he's looking for? And on top of that, as somebody that knows his bag pretty well, how much are these bulge and roll irons coming into play in this whole scenario? And it's the nature of his irons. They're upright. They're the whole thing. Like, where do you sit on this so far?
Well, you kind of froze out there on the first part of the question, but I'm pretty sure I can determine what you were trying to ask. The golf ball thing. He is essentially, what he's looking for is something that will launch lower with the shorter end. They're all 37 inches. He's looking for something that will launch much lower and spin the same, pretty much at the bottom end of his bag. And then also he can take advantage of every course with his length and his speed and still kind of get the same apex height with, I mean, essentially every club in your bag should hit the same apex height. But I do believe that I don't think they're launching low enough for him. And I think that when it comes to a windy day, I think there is there is a decay of accuracy for him because of the speeds that he's creating and how high he hits the ball. So he is asking for kind of like the Goldilocks of golf balls. And I'm not, in my professional opinion, I don't know if there is one that would be suitable for him right now. As we sit here today, I don't think there is one that he's going to fall in love with unless he makes, I wouldn't say wholesale changes, but a couple changes that would mitigate what he's seeing. And whether that be equipment or swing, I don't think, I think he's, in my opinion, I think he's very close to being one of the, like, he's going to be at the top of a leaderboard in a major for the next 5 to 10 years. I really think that he's that great with pretty much throughout the bag. I think he's looking for one little last piece, and that's something that doesn't exist at this point. So I'm not going to I know you want me to say what I think he should be playing, but I really don't think there is that thing that he can maintain height on driver, 3-wood, 5-wood, and then the long irons, and then, launch the ball considerably lower with the wedges. I think if I would step back and look at it from my angle, I would say that the wedge shafts need to change first of all. I think he's still in the LA golf stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't see I would rather see for him, I would probably, I'd rather see something where the handle is so soft that the dynamic loft of those wedges goes down, 3 to 5 degrees or something. That would make, that would make it the best possible way. And I think that's a discussion that he can have with his affiliation with LA Golf too, is, do we need to develop something that, I don't need to change anything swing mechanic wise, and I can see a different launch angle whilst maintaining the same spin that I'm seeing. I really think that's the first question that he should be asking.
So I wasn't looking for a golf ball recommendation per se. Like, you kind of answered my question.
Well, you broke up. You broke up when you were talking before. I didn't catch all of it. So it's okay.
Okay. So like the tough thing, the tough thing with Bryson is that he's got fixed variables that he's just not willing to change yet, right? Like his bag makeup, the lofts of his irons, the whole thing. So like the great thing about Bryson and the tough thing with Bryson is the fact that he's got these variables that are non-negotiable. So when you just said that about switching the wedge shafts, was when we were talking to him a month and a half ago, was my first idea. Is like, well, you play these basically Ventus Black Plus in every iron shaft that you have, because that's essentially what they are. They're boardy all the way through. Is what as the swing gets slower, the stiffer it is, the ball's going to want to go higher because dynamic loft increases, right? Like, it doesn't matter how hard you swing. It's math. So creating some softness somewhere in his bag would be the first thing. And I think, Kellen, you actually kind of said that to me on the phone. It's like, well, I think there's a wedge shaft thing or a short iron shaft thing that might help out. But, it's an interesting thing. It's going to be an interesting thing to kind of track, because essentially what you are saying is what I think the same thing too, is that he is looking for a unicorn ball. But I do agree also that if he can figure that out, he's probably the closest thing to a robot as far as accuracy is concerned that we would see. Scotty's a robot for different reasons, but Bryson, because of the way that he plays golf, it literally is the closest thing to point and shoot if he feels like he can control the golf ball. I think he could probably controls the face better than anybody in golf, up and down. He's pretty efficient. So, okay, last question, fireball, then we're going to get you out of here there, Kellen Watson. 2 majors left, Oakmont, and we're going to Ireland. Tell me who wins Oakmont. Tell me who wins in Ireland. And be non-brand specific. Just pick your winners. It's not going to get you in trouble.
Oh, you say that. Easy for you to say.
Well, here's the thing too, Kris. And this is like, I get this from my buddies at home too, that have the ability to wager on said golf tournaments.
Sure.
they will say to me, well, who do you like this week? And I will go down the line, right? And like none of them like make the cut. It's like the closer
You and I are in the same boat.
The closer you are to the action of what's going on without being, I don't want to be like the Donaghy of the NBA and start throwing games or something. But the closer you are to the action of it, you have no clue what's going to happen.
Totally agree.
Yeah, on any given week, if
Correct.
you go down the range and you're like, wow, he's hitting it good, probably not going to play well. And then you find the guy that's hitting it all over the range, right. And you look on the leaderboard in the afternoon, he's
probably going to win.
Like, okay. So,
dude, Phoenix Open this year, I was sitting on the end of the range with Justin Thomas and with JJ, and I am watching JT just hit it everywhere. Looks like he wants to snap every club in his bag, and it on cue, like you just said, almost wins that golf tournament. It's so funny that you say that. Yeah, right. The closer you are to it, you can be walking up and down the range line and go, man, he is striping it. He is dialed. Numbers are perfect. Move looks great. And yeah, like the DFL doesn't even make the cut.
Right.
Yeah, those are my picks.
So that's so when I was a clubhouse kid for the Angels back in my previous life, and whenever a pitcher would warm up, and Langston used to tell me this, he's like, if I'm banging in the warm up, I'm going to get rocked. Like if I got it all working in the bullpen, like that is an absolute sign of death. Like it's an inning and 2/3, 6 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, I'm done. Like that's the kiss of death. Is a good warm up.
I mean, to a point, Oakmont's going to play long. It's going to play fast, and I don't think I've never had the opportunity to play it, but I still don't want to walk onto that first tee and try to hit my approach shot into that first green, especially at US Open speeds. I don't want any part of that. I mean, chalk. Who's going to win Oakmont? Probably somebody that is within the first 20 players favored to win Oakmont. Take your pick. I don't know.
Right.
Royal Portrush. That has an added. What is it called? That's got a lot of added things to it. What wave are you in? What's the weather like? What this? What that? How are the greens running at an 8 or a 9? Is it windy? Is it raining? How many towels do you have in the bag? Are you going to wear those rain gloves? Do you want those mittens?
Right. Who's your caddy?
Are you taking somebody local?
Yeah.
How's the sand this week? Are we furrowing the bunkers? I have zero idea of. I mean, history would say maybe somebody either from Ireland or Northern Ireland would have a great chance of winning that tournament. But the last 2 years, you've had 2 Americans win. So
right.
Yeah.
So your guess is his.
So long story longer,
it's as good as ours.
Have picks, that's fine.
I got that. What I love to see, and I love to see it at the U.S. Open. And this might be a knock on all the guys that I work with, but I love to see people struggle like a lot.
Same.
Like I don't want somebody to win at I don't want somebody to win at 10 under in a U.S. Open. Like if you win it, like I always go back to like Justin Rose at Marion in 13 is like he won at 1 over. Like awesome, love it. 600 yard golf course.
Yeah, same.
+1. That's awesome. Let's do that. And but then you get the other side of it, and all the fans are like, I want to see him shoot 39 under. It's like, why?
No, you don't.
It's not a true setup of. Like I want them to be pinpoint accurate. They need to be pinpoint accurate. Like take the fairways in to where they're like 10 yards wide everywhere, I'll take it. I'd love to watch it.
So on a scale of like Rory snap hook down the stretch on a Sunday round versus like where Wyndham Clark was this past week throwing driver against the tee box there, where do you like to see players struggle for open conditions? Are we at the point of like throw clubs and break shit, or like
no? I like
visibly aggravate.
Like the one of these, like with the hand on the hip, looking like
the teapot. Yeah, love it.
Do that, or like.
So you're not thinking like Britney Spears 2007 meltdown. You're looking for something a little class, something a little more civil.
It's like if they have a confused look on their face after they hit what they thought was a great shot, I'm in. Give me more of that. Bottle that up. Put that on the shelves at Kroger, Publix. I'll buy it. I think there's like I think that's the definition of like true championship golf is like, let's not make it quirky and outrageous and not like Chambers Bay or anything like that where you can't walk up and down the hills unless you have like spikes on. Let's make it like a true test of golf. And I think that's why like the US Open Rota should be like, it should be, I don't know, it should be more concise, more.
Yeah, it should be.
I mean, Oakmont is
Oakmont, Shinnecock, Wingfoot.
Pinehurst
Olympic.
Is going to be Pinehurst. Pinehurst is a completely different golf course than Oakmont, and I just think like, and then Torrey's a totally different golf course than Oakmont, and then Pebble, and then this, and then that, and then going back east to West Coast. I want it to play. I don't want it to be easy. I want it to play tough. I know that's the test that they're looking for every year, is that this one is going to test you mentally, and it's going to test your mastery of all the golf clubs in your bag. And I think that is the true essence of what a major championship should be. I think there's other major championships that you play in that you might not have to hit, a 6-iron or a 5-wood or something like that. I just think that if every golf club in your bag is dialed in to a point where you need to use it almost every round, I think that is the truest test of golf.
Agreed. Love that.
I think that's a good place for us to wrap this up. Kellen, as always, thank you for spending time with us. This has been a random show. I went from computer to phone. Kris had to let his some worker into his house for a 5-minute break, and Kellen's just been there, just tried and true the whole time, sitting in the same spot. So I think we assembled a nice little show here. But Kel, we're going to bring you back on. I got to say, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, we've covered 3 topics, and this guy's just gone just absolutely to the pit of hell on three different topics, and it's exactly what we like. That's why you're on the show.
I appreciate you guys having me, and probably no free ads on this show, but my Comcast internet has not caused me any troubles during this. So just throwing it out there. No free ads.
Comcast for the win. I love it.
No free ads.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to know. So. Comcast for the win. We're looking for that Comcast sponsorship, actually, by the way. So we'll take it. All right. So that's Kel, K-Mac, Wunder, episode 286 of Fully
Kris,
Equipped.
very nice to meet you, buddy.
We are out of here.
Always, my friend.
Till next time.